Hi guys, it's Erin from Ginger's Florals. Try to ignore my messy garage behind me. This is where I store all of my dahlia tubers for the season. I wanted to show you how I do it, talk a little bit about the different options, and then I need to check my tubers. I have to check them once a month, all winter long until it's time to plant. Mostly because we need to double check and make sure nothing is rotting in there, nothing's desiccating too bad, so that everything can have a chance to make it through the winter. Let me turn the camera around and I'll show you a little bit of how we do it. Winston and Izzy are with me too. Hi, buddy. So these two shelves in my garage is where I store all of my tuber bins. It stays above freezing. It's an insulated garage, but it doesn't get too warm, so nothing's going to sprout during the winter. So this is what they look like. I have generally two really, but three different methods for how I store them. I use these plastic bins, or I'll use a plastic bag if it's just a couple of tubers. And generally, it fully depends on what's available and least expensive for me. I use vermiculite to store them in, or wood chips. Both seem to work just fine. The vermiculite maybe works a little bit better, but generally, I mean, either one will work. So I have about 60 different varieties. I'm probably going to pare that down this year. I'll sell off the tubers that I'm not going to grow anymore. I think fewer varieties will do me just fine. So yeah, I'm going to show you what I'm looking for in all of these. So I'm going to walk through what I look for when I'm doing this check once a month. It's either mold really or desiccation. So if it's too wet in whatever environment you have them stored in, it can mold the tubers and they'll rot. Or if it's too dry, they'll desiccate, and then again they won't be viable at that point. So let's take a look. I'm going to start here with Giggles. This is a really pretty colorette type. So I have all these tubers in here. Here, let me look. So I have a bunch of tubers in here. They're laid in. There's a layer of wood chips, and then a layer of tubers, and then a layer of wood chips, so none of them are touching. But this one looks pretty good. I don't see any signs of mold or desiccation. No. And I will go through every one of these bins and I will open them up and take everything out and repack it so I can make sure I'm not just burying a problem. Yep, this one looks good. This one generally keeps pretty well for me. It's a tiny little tuber, but it grows a good sized plant. Yep, this one seems to be pretty healthy. Not too wet, not too cold. And this one I have 20 in. Yep. Some of them, as you can see, I'll store them as one single tuber or two or three, depending on how they were coming across when I was dividing them. It doesn't really matter. You should generally get the same amount of flowers out of any one of them, but it gives me a better probability that I did it right and I didn't miss an eye. If you could see, I don't know if you can see that. There's an eye right there. So this one should bloom quite nicely. Yeah. Well, and I think that's it for this one. Oh, one more. Yeah. Okay, so let's start repacking. So generally, you want to store them in above freezing, but cool, below 50 degrees if possible. Sometimes this garage gets above, especially if John's got a project he's in here working on, he'll have a heater going. But it usually stays pretty cold, and it always, unless something goes crazy and the door's open, while it's freezing outside, it'll stay above freezing. So I don't have to worry about that so much. Some people will put them in a dark basement, or even turn their flower cooler into like a storage room, or you can just put them in a cool back bedroom that you have that you can kind of turn the heat down in and put it in the closet. What you don't want is light and heat, because then if it gets warm, especially if it has some light, it'll sprout, and you certainly don't want it sprouting in December. The other thing that I want to tell you that I do, because I've dealt with mislabeling since I started, when I divide my tubers, I do them variety by variety, and I always put a label on the outside of the box and the label on the inside of the box. That way, if something happens and if the one on the outside comes off, I have one on the inside as a backup. It's no fun to plant a bunch of tubers and have to wait until they bloom, which can be the end of July or August, before you even know what you have in the ground. It's best to double, triple label any way that you can to make sure that you're for sure planting what you think you're planting. It's a pain. So Giggles is good. This one is Chickadee. It's the exact same idea. I'm just pulling them out. This one's in vermiculite, but it's really the same thing. Looking to see there's a little bit of desiccation, but it's not bad. It's still pretty good. I think it'll be okay. So there's one. For some reason, I didn't label how many I had in this one. This one is looking pretty good. So the last way that I will store my tubers is in these plastic bags. It's basically the same idea as the bins, but it's for smaller amounts. This one I only have 5 because this was a seedling from last year. I'm seeing if I could overwinter it. But as you can see on this one of my tubers of this two has disconnected. It's desiccated. So this one is going to rot over the winter. So what I'm going to come do is come in and cut this one off, because the rest of this looks pretty healthy. There's 2 more eyes. I think it might be too warm in here right now. Okay, so this guy that's all desiccated is going to come in and cut it off. Oh, this is not a good set of clippers. I'll go find my Felcos and fix it. But yeah, cut it off. That way this tuber doesn't rot, and the rest of it in here should be good. I didn't see anything else that was a problem. Just that one, and it was kind of sticking up out of the wood chips a little bit, so that may have been part of it. But overall, this is looking good. So that's generally what I do. That's my once a month in the winter, because I dig them in November, hopefully after a hard frost. This year it was a light frost, but I had to get them out of the ground. I'll store them like this, and then every month, December, January, February, and March, I'll do a check on them, make sure that they're still all viable. And sometimes, depending on what it is, I'll start to pre-sprout some of them to take cuttings or just to pot them up and get them going. But yeah, that's what I do. So I'm not going to bore you with the rest of this. I'm gonna go through the rest of the tubers, and I'll let you know if I saw too many bad ones or not at the end of this video. Okay guys, I went through all of the bins and all the bags, and I did find a few that were not healthy. Like this one is all mushy, this one rotted out. The one that's rotted out entirely, I obviously am just taking it out. I'm going to get rid of it. But the ones that had some rot on the tuber, I just pulled and cut that part off because it was up above where the eyes are that I need to keep. So we'll give that one a shot. And then this one that you saw before that's all desiccated. The ones that had excess moisture and that were rotting, I've left some of the bins, beg your pardon. I've left some of the bins cracked open so that it'll encourage them to dry out a bit. I'll check on them in a couple of days and close them back up. And there was one whole tuber that the whole thing was just moldy and gross, so I pulled it out and threw it away. This really is the reason why you do this, is to make sure that you catch these things before it spreads to your entire bit. I also found some mouse poop on top of some of my bins, which is another reason why I use sealed containers rather than crates that breathe a little bit better. I don't want critters to get in there and eat them. So I just want to reiterate the things that you're looking for when you check and when you check in on your tubers throughout the winter is you want to look for anything that's desiccated. In that case, you may actually need to spray a little bit of water to bring the moisture level up in whatever container it is that you're using. But then on the other hand, you want to double check that you don't have any tubers rotting, no mold anywhere. If you do, get it out as quickly as possible so that it doesn't spread to all the other tubers that you have in that container. So you're looking for firm tubers and no mold, no moisture. Everything is still good and viable inside of there. And like I said, I do that once a month all throughout the winter, just to keep an eye, make sure I don't have any big problems. Later on this winter into the spring, I'll do probably a couple more tuber dahlia videos. I want to show you all the varieties that I'm going to keep and grow, and then the ones that I'm probably just going to sell the tubers, and I'll show you what they look like and then why I've made the decisions that I've made. Like I said before, the dahlias are super fun to grow. They multiply so quickly that once you have an established patch, you can have them forever. I encourage you guys to get in there and check your tubers to make sure that nothing is rotting and nothing is desiccating away to nothing. And if you found any of this information helpful, or you just enjoyed the video, I encourage you to consider subscribing to my channel, and I will see you guys in the next one.